Hey Panda Nation, you are listening to the Inverted Gear podcast with your hosts Nelson and Hillary. Join us every week as we take you behind the scenes into our brand, discuss upcoming projects, and conversate beyond the mat with the interesting people we've met along the way.
Hey Alec, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Where in the world are you right now?
I am in Orlando, Florida, getting ready for the Pan Championship 2021.
And then I am completely out of the IBJJF sphere at this point. Where's the pants this year?
It's in Orlando, right next to Disney.
Oh, nice. So it seems IBJJF moved everything to either Texas or Florida right now, correct?
Yes, that's these
All the majors in the U.S.
Because it's
Yeah,
always
these two
been in New
states.
York.
The Nogi Pants was in New York. The
Nogi
Ghee
Pants was in-
Pants.
Okay.
U-Pass was in Irvine, right? That was the old one.
Okay, and then they do the Ghee out in California.
Yeah, and then so it was pants in Irvine, and then Worlds was at the Pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the OG locations.
Yeah, those. They're also the cheaper locations too. Like you see how much it costs. Like they make a killing.
Crazy. Yeah, I remember going to those. I mean, when when we were both brown belts, we started dating. We were like super gung ho. I remember one year we went to both, and then I remember going to visit you guys in Atlanta. You were in Atlanta back then. I think you were still a brown belt, and we went for like the Alliance Pan Camp. You remember those days, Alec?
Yeah, man, because we would get pretty hyped up because we knew a lot of people would come visit and train. So, we were ready. We were training for the camps.
Yeah, for around 2010, 2011, 2012, Alliance Atlanta was freaking Alliance then. And it was like so, especially for like Ghee jiu-jitsu, like the level was so high. It's like, you had guys placing out of the academy, like pretty much every belt level, and like a bunch of different weight classes, and like Ian McPherson was there, and like Chris Moriarty was still competing. You were there. So many guys.
John Thomas, Pedro,
John Thomas,
Jordan Schultz.
Jordan Schultz.
Jesus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I haven't heard that name in a long time. But yeah, it was just the level was so high, and then everybody that was in the association was able to just come and train for the week, and I forget how much it cost, but those were some of the regional jiu-jitsu camps. It was just not relaxing at all. It was just a grind,
That's the
jacare.
way I remember it too. I lived in California, but the Gracie Humaita camps were very similar for when Sala was still affiliated with Horler, and Leticia had all her girls out there, and that's what Jiu-Jitsu camp meant, was preparing as a team for these giant tournaments. But now it's all about the destination camps.
Yeah, destination vacation. I'm
Yeah.
much more relaxed. It's not
It's like in Greece or Ibiza or something.
Yeah, it wasn't it was not Atlanta. It's I remember it was like noon training, and then tough warm up, some very competition specific techniques, and then he was king of the guard. I remember you guys were all about the open guard, close guard, half guard, and then after that was 10-minute rolls, and then and then we come back in the afternoon for the same thing. And I just remember being just dead. You're just eating, taking a giant nap, going back to train, same thing. It's like eating again, go to sleep.
That's
Alec,
pretty much what we did.
Was your preparation any different compared to what you remember then for this?
Like now?
PMs?
Like now?
Right, yeah.
I'm just older, so it's not possible to always train that hard twice a day. Especially training with Pedro here at Nice BJJ, we do a lot of conditioning, so a lot of grip work, because that's think about the gi. When you're grabbing the gi, that's like the most important thing. It's not like how much you bench or squat. It's like how can I use that strength functionally. So just being a lot smarter, not doing anything crazy, just listening to my body more. So before, I didn't have a choice. We would do that crazy camp, and it's just we just
Survival of the fittest.
survive somehow. But now it's more more dialed in, more technical, a lot more focus on technique, and then the conditioning on the side. Um, yeah, I would say I train a lot smarter than I used to, so I don't get as
Yeah,
injured as much. So knock on wood.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, one of the things that always surprised me was like when Cobrinha run camp or like Cobrinha run class, like the work capacity that that guy had is just astonishing.
yeah,
And
it
and then
was.
like he when he would like run camp for everybody, everybody's just like what. What do you mean we're doing this for this long?
And you couldn't like say anything because I remember like we did a drill and one of the older guys he's like, "What? We got to do 100 of these?" And then like Korean's like 200, and then
Oh.
the guy just kept talking like it kept escalating. So we would shut up and just like bear with it. That's because that's all we could do. But it took us a while to adjust. So when Cabrini first moved, I think I was training maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And then Cabrini moved to Atlanta. So I was like, oh, I need to start training twice a day. So that was like, it kind of changed like how I was training. So
Yeah,
by the time you guys came, we're ready. We're hungry, ready to take out some aggression on other people.
the visitors. Yeah, I remember being that was a cool experience because I got to we were affiliated. I was running one of the gyms in New Jersey that was affiliated with their alliance. I got to go down there for like the instructor courses and then go for the training camps and then go out and compete. I remember not even thinking about going to Worlds or Pans, like the first time I went, like, and then just hanging in the room, and a lot of you guys, like you and Jeff and Ian, be like, "Oh man, you're good. Like, why are you not
Hmm.
competing? You need to come with us. You need to go. Like, you need to have that experience." And I was like, "Okay, like, maybe." And then, like, you
Hmm.
guys sucked me into it, and like, then I started going as much as possible. I'll go like out to the big tournaments. But we were talking off air before, and that's how we came up and that alliance, like very hard training style rooms. And like I train now, and it's almost shocking to me how different it is. The culture, not all schools, but a lot of schools I visit,
Hmm.
and guys are sitting out rounds, sometimes sitting out multiple rounds, and like drinking water and bullshitting on the side of the mat. Back in those days, that was like unheard of. Like if you were at the academy, you were there to train, and then I remember like Jack already shouting at people. It's like, "Hey, you can rest at home. Get back in there."
Yeah, we just the culture we had was, I mean, Cobrinha, we couldn't like mess around with Cobrinha around because like, man, you're gonna get your butt kicked. So, um, yeah, just the culture. I think once you have that culture of pushing hard, like it's so easy to get better, and then once you see like your friends are doing well, I think that gives you confidence to like, oh, my friend just won this tournament. Okay, I think I can. I hang with him in training, so I think I can go out there and do it as well. So it really like success really builds upon success. So you see that like the big schools, the Atos, AOJ, Marcelo's, anywhere. If you have like a small group of guys doing pretty well. There's like a really cool energy that develops off of it.
Yeah, having a good training partner and just being able to like is if you're just hanging with that guy and eventually you're you're gonna improve and you're gonna get there.
Hmm.
And like you see it in wrestling a lot of times too. If you follow like NCAA wrestling, sometimes you see these guys winning the nationals, and it's usually if there's like two guys from the same school, usually like the 60 pounder or 65 pounder, and then like the 70 whatever. I
Hmm.
forgot the weight classes completely right now. But yeah, usually those guys are like training partners in the room. Usually do pretty well together. And like you said, like success builds in success. Like so, you have these schools like have one guy that's very competitive, and then like having that guy in the room and just inspires other people
Hmm.
to just put in the work in. And that is something also now that I think a lot of people don't understand how much work it takes to get good at jiu-jitsu, and they kind of expect results a lot faster than our generation did. Because back in the day, it's like it was pretty average. It's like you get your black belt, 10 years. That was like that
Hmm.
was it. Because there was not that much access to training. Like now, most schools have a full schedule. You can train noon, 6 a.m. in the afternoon. I remember when I started training this, a lot of schools they didn't have classes every week. I mean, every day of the week. And then if they had it, it was like, 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. Some schools, like, classes start at 8 p.m. after the karate program or taekwondo or boxing or whatever they were renting space from. So when you started jiu-jitsu back then, when we started, it was pretty much assumed as that, hey, you're going to suck for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have these guys that, like, been training 2, 3, 4 years and, like, upset they're not there yet. Do you see that also?
Yeah, I see that, especially teaching. You see the students being frustrated. I've had students rolling with me. This is a while back, but students rolling with me, and they're like having a nervous breakdown because they can't pass my guard or something, and I'm the coach of the class. I think it's just the demographic of student has changed. 10, 20 years ago, you had people, looking for jiu-jitsu specifically. It was more underground. It was more of a niche sport, which it still kind of is, but it was definitely way more underground. So now it's becoming more mainstream. So I think just the demographic of person has changed. So we've had to adapt teaching. Again, you can't push the students the same way. You have to be a little bit softer. You have to give people more breaks, more rest, more feedback. So. Luckily, there are still those hardcore gyms, your Daisy Freshes, your Atoses, your the other gyms like that. So if they really want to push themselves hard, there's schools out there like that, but it's not as common.
Yeah, and the other thing too is a lot of times you see guys that are like more hobbyist
Hmm.
school and like more relaxed, and then they tell themselves like, you know what, I want to do this for real. I want to win a world championship, and then they move to one of these schools, and then reality kicks in, and they're like, no,
Hmm.
I don't want this. I don't want this at all.
Well, it's good to at least experience it, at least once in
Yeah,
their
for
life.
sure.
At least they can say they train with like these world champions.
Let's talk about content creation real quick, because that's something I noticed you've been just kicking ass at, and you are one of the few very active competitors at a high level that puts out a lot of content and a lot of like really high quality content. Nah, because sometimes you see guys just filming from like their phone, and then like the audio is awful, and you're like, what did he say?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Uh,
when do you start creating content? When do you start taking it seriously? And how has it changed your, not your approach, but have you noticed anything? Like, why do you put so much energy into the content you're creating?
I think that's the name of the game. So, like me and Nelson were talking earlier, it's easy to want to focus on the tournaments, but say there were no tournaments, like last year there was no tournaments, then there's no attention on that athlete anymore because they're not competing, right? So the content is just, I see it as marketing my talent in teaching and competing or whatever else, talking. Um, and for me, it wasn't something I always did because I always figured, if I won these tournaments, Flow Grappling or whoever's in charge will be like, oh, this guy's cool, and that'll blow you up. But I think it was maybe ADCC trials where I ended up winning, and I remember they did like a recap of the tournament, and then like they talked about everybody else except for me. They just they just completely forgot that I was. They talked about every weight class. It's only five. I think it was only 4 or 5 weight classes, and they skipped me. So that kind of drilled it in my head that I need to do the work myself. I need to promote myself and push myself, and that's how it kind of came about. Um, and yeah, I just started. I think I just started maybe once a week posting something, and you can look at my content. You can see how I used to do videos in my car during summer, hot Georgia's summer. So I roll the windows up and I'll shoot like a little video talking about whatever topic, and then I just kept evolving from there. So I know a lot of people are afraid to post content, but I think if you have a cool, interesting story, you could be a white belt that's really passionate about jiu-jitsu. You could be like a brown belt masters competitor that has a family and trying to balance jiu-jitsu. I think that would be kind of cool. So I think it doesn't always have to be about technique. It could be about like you training, you doing strength and conditioning, or you're dieting. So I think a lot of people are afraid. Even my friends that I train with, a lot are they are afraid to kind of put content out constantly, consistently. So I'm always trying to push them to kind of do it, and that's why you'll see sometimes I'm not even in the videos, right? If you watch some of the videos, I'm not in it anywhere. But yeah, I think it's. Go ahead, Nelson.
Oh, is you getting Pedro and Jeff to be on camera?
Yeah, sometimes I just gotta force these guys to, I just keep nagging them because I had a friend. I don't know if you remember Adam from Paragon. Um, anyway, 2016, he was telling me to post on Instagram, and I was like, whatever, I'll do it one day. And then like 2 years later, now I started like posting. So it's like it's something you need to start now because it will kind of compound over years.
Yeah,
So,
that is something we definitely noticed that I think as a Ghee brand, we put a lot of content out through like different, like, these podcasts. We've been doing blog posts for years now, like, weekly blog posts. I used to write a weekly blog for like 3 years, I think, before I stopped.
Yeah, blog is not the most popular.
And, yeah, like it's not as popular anymore. So we're like, we're pivoting to more video content, and now we're gonna start. We're gonna start putting out more fitness content, like specifically geared towards jiu-jitsu with like the maces, the clubs, and the kettlebells. But whenever you put anything out, it's like the beginning is like you're like, oh man, is anyone even reading this? It's like I'm putting so much time into this. I don't know if anybody's reading it. It's like I see people are clicking on it, but like how long are they staying? That kind of thing. You're just looking at analytics, like trying to like figure out. But we'll randomly get emails like, hey, I bought an A2 Ghee, it's a little bit too small for me, can I switch to an A3? And then like, PS, by the way, I love the blog. Or like that video you posted on about half guards, like I've been using that every day. And then you have like just randomly people stopping you at tournaments and be like, hey, I love that stuff. I use the De La Hiva sweep you show all the time, that kind of stuff. And it's cool. And especially with jiu-jitsu guys, when you're able to like directly affect their game, if they have a question and then they put it like, they put it into Google and the algorithm gods just take them to whatever video you posted about it. And then you're able to like, answer their question and becomes part of their game. That's like a strong connection in jiu-jitsu. You're like, oh yeah, man, like that, like I put good stuff out there. Like, I do the half guard pass all the time. And for us, it's just like, it just sets us apart from other brands. And then when you're a competitor and you're putting out content all the time, eventually, you just creating a following, and eventually when you want to release anything, whether it's like, your own rush guard, your own pair of shorts, your own t-shirts, or more, or even instructionals, or when like a lot of guys now are doing like Patreon, like that stuff, it's awesome to do, but like, you have to create that following, and then like the only way to do it is just putting content out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a chance to be creative. That's something that took me a while to learn. It's like you can do whatever you want. You can make your own kind of lane for yourself. And man, just have fun with it. That's what I like, man. Like I've been doing more Instagram Reels, and like there's no talking. It's just the technique and cool music, and I really enjoy that. Versus like sometimes the long form instructional people. They see it, they're like, it's 10 minutes long. I'm not going to watch all that. So I think you should be doing things that interest you. Like if you can combine your interest with like your audience, I think that's like the best route.
Let's talk about travel real quick, because you are a super well-traveled dude. I remember you went to Japan for a while. It was like a few weeks, right?
I was there for like a few months, almost like a whole summer, pretty much.
And what year was this?
I went in 2016.
And then it was like you were teaching wrestling, if I'm not mistaken. What was the deal?
I was training wrestling with one of the it's Nihon University, so they call it Nichidai. So I was training wrestling, and I was supposed to go there a little bit earlier and train with like the Olympic wrestlers, but I missed them because it was 2016 Olympics
Okay.
in Rio. So I ended up training with college students. So the whole summer I just trained wrestling, and I trained a little bit of jiu-jitsu at Axis BJJ, and then I just ended up competing. So it was kind of like a very like a jiu-jitsu kind of Ronin trip where I was just like, outside my element, didn't speak the language, and just had to make it work somehow. So that was a great trip, and it really, I think it helped me grow as a person. Just, man, I had no family, I had some friends, but like no family, I didn't speak the language, I didn't have a lot of money, so it was just like, survival.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is like for people that never been to Japan is a lot of people in Japan speak like no English, especially like old school, like older generations,
Oh,
no
God.
English whatsoever. So it's very common, especially if you're outside of Tokyo or like the more touristy areas. If you walk into like a small restaurant or like a food stall on the street, it's very common. They're like they don't speak English at all. And then if you don't at least try to speak some Japanese,
Hmm.
like they won't give you the time of the day. They're like, move on. They wave you
Even
off.
even the people that speak Japanese are like too shy, so they're like, oh, no, no. You're like, oh God, where am I? So I had some friends in Japan, but maybe the first month they were going on vacation, so there would be weeks where I wasn't speaking any English. Just like very very introspective time period for myself. Just like, well, it was kind of.
That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, so was it like a wrestling program that you heard about that got you in, or like you're just like, I always want to go to Japan. Let's go.
I had friends with connections there, so
Okay.
it was really funny because I had to have someone kind of first off I had to get someone to show me how to get to the wrestling to the where the wrestling was, and it was like, man,
Mm-hmm.
it was outside of Tokyo, and like it was easy to get lost, and like there was no foreigners
Yeah.
where I was going, just like
Yeah.
I mean, looking
uh,
at any sort of public transportation maps, it's like,
Yeah.
you're
When
gonna
you
get
look
lost.
at it,
Yeah,
yeah. When you look at the Tokyo subway map, you're like, okay, I
I
gotta
got
make some notes here.
I got on. I think it's the JR Green Line. I got on there trying to go back home, and I didn't realize it's a loop. So I was just like,
It's like
uh,
I think I've seen this before.
but
So
anyway,
it's like,
at the wrestling academy, so I had to get introduced. So I had to, had everybody lined up, all the, the senior students to the junior students and the coaches. So I had to go in front of everybody and introduce myself, and it was kind of cool.
that's
But
awesome. That's
they
very
treated me with
cool.
a lot of respect, and then man, we just trained hard, man.
That's awesome. That's very
yeah,
cool.
let your wrestling do the talking, right?
Yeah, it
And
was
then,
just. I mean, they would just show the techniques, and then just like they had like maybe one or two guys that spoke a little bit of English, and that was it. That was it.
what is your wrestling background, real quick? You wrestle in high school?
I didn't wrestle at all. So I was in high school. I was all about jiu-jitsu. So I was already. I think I might have been a blue belt, and uh, I was a blue belt in high school. So white to blue in high school, and I was just competing. I had just started. I think Korea moved 2006, seven.
Mm-hmm.
So I was already like junior, senior high school. So we were already, man. I didn't have time to like wrestle and do like pans and whirls.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of made that decision because I really love jiu-jitsu. So that's what I wanted to do. So I just kind of stuck with it. And then I didn't learn wrestling. Uh, I learned a little bit just from training no-gi, training with the guys in no-gi and stuff. But it wasn't until I went to Japan and really started focusing on wrestling that I got better at it. So that really helped
Yeah,
me just.
I was gonna say that you have really good wrestling for somebody that never doesn't have the wrestling background.
Yeah, that didn't learn it first. Like usually you hear the other way around. People are wrestlers and then they're looking for something else to do, so they find jujitsu. But you
Mhm.
you already found jujitsu at a pretty young age.
It's
I
also
think. Oh, go
go
ahead,
ahead, Alec.
Nelson. I was just gonna say, I
Yeah,
think if you're good at grappling, man, you're gonna be able to pick up on a lot of the details. You see that with like those Olympic wrestlers, like Jaden Cox and whoever else. All these guys, they can pick up jiu-jitsu pretty. At least the passing, kind of okay. Maybe not the guard
yeah,
work, but like they're gonna be tough.
yeah. One of the things too I've noticed, especially like the last few years, is no gi is becoming more and more popular, and people are becoming more and more interested in ADCC in Abu Dhabi. Is just
Hmm.
people are working on the wrestling. It's like I don't know where it's like takedowns and pressure passing are cool again.
Yeah, the old school stuff.
It's like the old school stuff. So like all these guys have been working on leg locks for the last 5 years. Suddenly you're like, oh, I'm doing this new thing. It's called pressure
Yeah.
passing. I'm like, come on, man.
This new body lock passing. I'm like, wait a second, that
Body
body
lock
lock passing been around forever.
It's like Fabio Gurgel was crushing me with that 10 years ago.
They're like, Gordon Ryan discovered body lock passing. I'm like, wait a second.
Oh man, so
That's
funny.
kind of downside to being old school. Like some of the stuff we were doing a long time ago, like, dude, that's been around forever. And then like, oh, this, John Danaher made this.
Yeah, I remember when like leg tracks became popular. I was like, Jacare used to call this Leo Biera trap.
Mm.
When Leo Biera was doing those like in 2000. Leo Biera had a time machine. Some of the stuff he did back then is like, oh.
Yeah, him and like Ted Day were on like different levels than everybody. They were just.
Yeah. Talking about old school is one of the things I'll never forget is when I was still teaching in New Jersey. It was like a few years ago, and one of the guys tells me, "Oh man, I've been watching old school jiu-jitsu matches." I was like, "Oh, like what you been watching? Like Terere, like Fabio Gurgel, Holeta, like what are we talking about here?" He's like, "Oh, it's like Miao's when they were purple belt."
Oh,
like,
dang. Well, they're in
walk away
Masters. They're in the Masters
Walk away from
division.
me. Yes, that is hilarious.
Oh man.
I think that's another reason why these guys need to evolve too, because like when they retire, look at like Hoffa Mendez. It's like, man, after a few years, man, people forget about you.
Yeah.
So if you're not evolving your content or your branding.
Yeah. I mean, AOJ has like such a strong presence though, and then like whatever homegrown students or guys that moving from Brazil to go up there, like I know they have like scholarship or whatever, and they're always just putting out these new guys, and just keeping the school name out there at least. But it's definitely for a while everybody's all they wanted to know, especially Ghee nerds. It's like, oh, what's Hafa doing now?
Mm-hmm.
Because Hafa and Ghee were just putting out new, these new techniques all the time. And everybody's like, oh, this you need to learn this. Yeah, this is how it's done now. Talking about travels, you were out in Gothenburg for a while.
Yeah, Gothenburg, Sweden.
How was that going from Atlanta to Gothenburg? You and Micah Howe holding it down.
So the upside is that in Sweden they speak a lot of English, so that helps you right off the back. You can figure out how to get to places. People can help you. I think just culturally there are a lot of differences. So just the way people are, a little bit, I would say a little bit colder, harder to get to know. So like in America, at the end of training, you can go like, hey guys, you guys want to go to a diner or wherever? Man, easy. You want to grab some food? Easy. In Sweden, man, not gonna happen. So it can be kind of tough to build like those personal relationships, interpersonal relationships. And in fact, like most of my friends in Sweden weren't from Sweden. They were like from Poland or Iran or somewhere else. So that was kind of tough. So it's hard to have like close friends. The training wise, the Swedish people love to fight. So boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, like you don't have to worry about pushing them too hard because they just like the Viking blood. They're just ready to go, ready to like rah. But yeah, it was a cool experience. I was out there for almost 3 years, so it's definitely like very European city. Great transit. So me and John, we just walk. You didn't have a car. We just walk or could take a train.
Yeah, I mean, like that city is so cool. The man, for if you haven't heard the city before, it's like a coastal city. So there's like ferries everywhere, and then like they're like the ferries. Think of the ferry almost like as a it has like a bass route, has like all these different stops to get you across the bay, and everybody's just riding around their bikes, jumping the ferry, and then there's bike lanes everywhere, and it's a beautiful, beautiful city. Yeah, I remember we went there and like we were supposed to go see John, and then after like John, we were about to be there like a week or 2 weeks before. He's
Mhm.
like, hey, I just got hired to go teach this camp in, I think he was going to, I forget where at this point, but yeah, he ended up not being there when we connected. So
I
we're
think
like,
I remember
like,
that. I think I
we
remember
just walk around Gothenburg for 3 days and then like went on to Copenhagen.
It's so small, but you can
It's
like
efficient.
you could walk around. Like we had like a theme park. It was like 10 minutes from where I lived, and then like the training was like 10 minutes from. Yeah, we got so lazy, man.
I remember like eating all the fish. I was like,
Yeah,
all
the
right, I
fish.
need
Yeah,
all the
they
fish.
like salmon.
Fish church, like this
you
giant
went
fish
there.
market.
Fish
Yes.
Kogan, I think, something like that.
Oh, look at you.
And then
Swedish.
cafes. I missed the cafes.
I remember.
Did you guys go to any?
Oh, the cafes, yeah, for sure. And like I loved just walking around how walkable it was.
Mhm.
I love the ferries, and I guess I met like the one nice Swedish person because I left my purse behind on a ferry one time, and she actually like tracked us down. Like she called from my phone to Nelson's phone to
No, I
find
think
us.
we call your phone and she picked up.
Or either
And then
way,
she's
yeah,
like,
she was
"Oh, what stop
super
with the ferry
helpful,
are you in?"
super friendly, yeah.
Yeah, and then she bought the stuff.
So they're out there in Sweden.
You guys got to go during summer. Like, man, Swedish summer is like my favorite.
It was summertime.
Was it summer?
So they were
Okay.
in
when
better
it
mood.
when it's not raining is awesome. It's raining a
Yeah,
lot
well,
over there.
yes, yeah, it's like the rainy city. And then close to Germany, Copenhagen, Poland. It was so easy to travel. It was like, man, 1 hour flight, 2 hour flights to get to like a lot of these places.
Also, yeah, like just the train system is so good.
Mhm.
So like going to Stockholm or Malmo or Copenhagen is like super easy.
Yeah, it's like
Like anywhere in Scandinavia, really, we really want to do this. We were supposed to do this trip last year, and then the pandemic happened. We were gonna go visit our friends in Bergen, Norway, start there, and then take the train to Oslo, and then from Oslo go to Stockholm,
Mhm.
and then from Stockholm go to Copenhagen, all taking the train.
yeah,
And it's so easy, and then the train station, like, and most European cities, like right in the middle of the city.
Mhm.
You don't have to go to the airport, travel outside the city to go to the airport, check in, wait for your flight. You just show up to the train station 10-15 minutes before your train, get on. And then if you have kids, it's like they can walk up and down the train. There's you can walk, get snacks, or just bring snacks on you bought at the train station. Yeah, if you're never to Scandinavia, highly recommend it. Especially like the smaller cities like Gothenburg are super cool. You don't really have to go the more touristy places like Stockholm or Copenhagen. Like some of the smaller cities are just as cool and way less tourists, much cheaper, and like you said, good training. All those guys train hard over there.
I would also say a good place to go to is like Malmo as well. It's like between Gothenburg and Copenhagen, so it's got like the influence from both cities. I got a frog in my throat, guys.
Go ahead, get a drink if you need to. When I go to Chile, one of my friends down there grew up in Malmo. He's like Chilean parents and moved to Sweden, and then he just moved back to Chile. And like every time I see him, it's like, dude, when are we going to Malmo? We gotta go to Malmo. And whenever we were traveling, we always go through Malmo because we were like on the train, like we never actually
Yeah, I don't
stopped.
think we actually stopped. No, I remember it, but we never.
So we'll
Yeah,
put that on
I
the
mean,
list.
so there's so many great places and great countries like Poland. I keep mentioning that one because it's like very affordable. So if you don't have a lot of money, Poland or some of the Eastern European countries too.
Yeah, Eastern Europe is definitely on the list. We've been as far as Austria, and Austria is awesome, but we definitely want to go. Christian has like a camp in Estonia. A few years ago, we were in Austria, and we had like 3 days after the camp before we had to like fly back. And I just put a post in the BJJ Globetrotters group, like, hey, we're 2 traveling black belts. We're gonna be in Austria. We have like 3 days. Is anybody want to host us? We're just looking to somewhere to train. We can teach class if you would like us to. You show us around. All we need is you tell us, like, hey, the food here is awesome. Don't stay at this hotel. Don't stay at that hotel. That kind of thing. And we got like all these requests, in, like the Czech Republic and like Greece and like all over the place. And we're like, oh man, we're gonna have to revisit this with Eastern Europe.
Oh yeah,
Some of like the the beach cities in Croatia, for example. I'm like, oh my god, like that looks so cool. Like we definitely gotta go back.
And there's small countries you probably never heard of, like Montenegro. There's places like you're like, that's a country? Like it's like, you know, yeah, that's a country.
Yeah.
It's like the size of Philadelphia.
Yeah. But like, you know, a lot older.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is like if you've never been to Europe and then you go to Europe and you're like just walking around, you're like everything is so much older than I'm used to. Or like they're just like castles or Roman ruins. You're like, oh.
Yeah, I think Gothenburg's like 100 years older than America or something. It's like, oh, this city's older than like in the
United States, yeah.
But how it's still withstanding, and
yeah.
you can like, it's not like it's ruins. It's still gorgeous. It's functional, modernized, I guess, to the times. But yeah, totally appreciate.
What are your thoughts on gi versus no gi right now? Do you see no gi becoming more popular? Are you spending more time no gi lately?
Well, I'm doing gi pants, so doing more gi.
But after the specific tournament,
I think I will add more no gi. I just try to do both. I like doing both, like because I can do different things. In the gi, I can play spider guard, spider lasso, all this cool stuff. No gi, I can do like, you know, more reaping, more heel hooks. So I really enjoy doing both. So I'll try my best to make time for both. Obviously, I'll try to gear my training more towards the tournaments I'm preparing for. But I always kind of push both. I feel like it's gotten more separated over the years. You know, some schools all gi, other schools all no gi. But I just remember like just coming up, we train with gi on, and then the instructor goes, "Okay, let's train no gi. Okay, take the gi off. I'm doing no gi now." So that's just kind of how I was kind of brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about spider guard, I remember. Well, you're not the stereotypical spider guard player that's 6'2".
Oh no.
and 180 pounds. I remember you started like joking around with the hashtag like short guy guard, and then it just took off. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I don't know when exactly it started, but it's just like, you know, hey, this guy's short guy guard. I forget how it started, but I just kind of kept doing it, kept running with it. And then I knew in my head, I was like, man, I'm going to do like an instructional series because I remember looking for content on being short and playing guard, and I found nothing. Zero. So I was like, I got it. I got this.
Yeah, it's always like small guy. So it's for like featherweight guys trying to beat up the heavyweight. But there's really, before you started doing it, there's really no content for somebody that's shorter playing guard.
Yeah, so
specifically open guard. Usually, if you're a short guy, they're like, you can play half guard.
So I think wasn't until last year that that was like my first or second. I did one other like self-published instructional series. So I did one on Versa La Hiva. Screwed up the audio, but I still I still managed to sell that one. So I kind of proved to me that I could do it. And then I did the short guy guard. So I was really happy because that's something that, you know, I wanted to do years ago. And like, I think it took maybe 4 years of like getting good at editing and getting the right equipment to where I could put out a product. And I think that's been my biggest seller. And like, even compared to like BJJ Fanatics and other stuff, like I think I've made more money from the short guy guard than like all the other stuff. So.
Very cool. I mean, I see people mention that on Reddit all the time. Or like whenever like any short guy, like short legs, short guy questions comes up, people point your way all the time. Like people on the jiu-jitsu subreddit love you, man. Love you. Like you and John Thomas are like two of the most popular guys in that subreddit.
I think they love John a little bit more than me. But
it's the hair.
Yeah, it's the hair.
Just luscious locks.
Because I post on there so much, you know, they're probably, man, this guy's spamming us. This guy's over here spamming. But yeah, you know, Reddit. A lot of guys are afraid to post on Reddit because, you know, you can get trolled a little bit, so it can be tough if you don't have thick skin.
I think you need to. The other thing too is this subreddit is very fickle, and especially like some guys only go there to sell stuff. If you go on the subreddit, like you only post in your history, it's like, hey, buy my DVD or I just release my DVD,
Uh-huh.
you're gonna get eaten alive, you know. That's where it can get rough. But like if you're just like, you know, just honestly being helpful and like, you know, jumping on the White Belt Wednesday threads and like, you know, just
engaging.
answering questions.
Yeah.
People appreciate it. I'm not as active as I used to be on there because I'm just busy with the kids, but I get the only time I really go in there now is just like look around a little bit or when I get tagged. Like people have like Ghee questions or something, I'll jump in. Sometimes it's like industry questions. I get tagged all the time. I'm like, I was like, I'm not supposed to say that. It's a secret.
Oh yeah.
But it's funny. Is that it's funny how big it's gotten. I mean,
It's huge.
I think
It's like 100,000
yeah, like
or
Reddit.
more.
Yeah, like I mean, like Reddit in general. I think it's gotten a lot bigger. We were talking about social media before. You're talking about like being active on Instagram. I mean, being active on Reddit, I think is just as important now. It's like such a like tiny community, or not tiny, but like it's active community in that subreddit that if you create good, you're able to keep people engaged with your content, or like, you know, you see your name pop up and like, you know, be active there. It really helps whatever you're trying to do. And like you said, like, you know, when, especially anything social media, and if you're trying to sell anything online, if you're not just doing the little things that compound over time, where there's like, you know, Instagram posts, Reddit posts, like the little videos, the little YouTube videos, like that stuff, like you said before, just compounds over time. You might create a video like a week later, it's like, oh man, this has like 5 views. It's like, yeah, but how many views is it gonna have 10 years from now? And I think doing jiu-jitsu just teaches you that skill of like, hey, it's like I suck now, but like, you know, 10 years from now, it's gonna pay off.
It's that consistency, just like anything. If you really want it to work and you want it to be engaging, you have to keep showing up. Like you said, you have to keep just putting something out there, whether it's like at one a day or you have a regular time, even like you log into Reddit just to make sure that you're engaging with everybody. It's staying consistent, just like showing up to practice for jiu-jitsu, being consistent with competitions, keeping your roster full so you can stay fresh.
So before we started recording, and we were talking about what advice would you give somebody coming up the ranks that wants to make a living for a living out of jiu-jitsu, besides concentrating on winning tournaments, whether Ghee or no Ghee? I think one of the things you mentioned is like, hey, like, you know, start making content early.
Yeah, 100%. And also, like, I look back, and it's almost like you can always see, like your growth. You know, you can see, I can track my progress by my hairstyles. So like, oh, but I can see myself, you know, 5 years ago, what I was doing and showing. But it's like a good way to keep your memories. You know, like you can just by keeping track of that stuff, recording for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I recorded all my matches coming up when I was competing. Like, so many matches I have, like, I remember in my memory, and I was like, oh, yeah, that was so cool. I was doing that back then. And like, there's like, you know, I have like cameras were awful back then. Like, the camera I had was awful. I still had like it was a cassette tape camera. I'm that old. But I'm thinking about this, and then like, you know, I know there's like one of my highlights is like I was fighting Rustam, and he gets caught in like this weird leg lock situation we got scrambled in, and that gets reposted all the time, and it's hilarious. And the same thing is like, I remember when you was like omoplata armbar Big Willie.
Oh yeah, Jesus.
Like that clip, it gets reposted, like, you know, oh, David versus Goliath, like jiu-jitsu, like, you know, size doesn't matter, like that kind of stuff. It's like those little clips of you competing sometimes for whatever reason, like, you know, that little clip just goes viral, and like there's so many jiu-jitsu pages that at least once a year, like, you know, it gets reposted and I get tagged in it, and it's just like so funny.
Also, you never know what's gonna blow up, so like,
yeah,
I think some of my biggest videos were like videos I didn't want to do, like my back was hurting, I'm like, just here, hold the camera, like random student hold the camera, and I'm just like just trying to get through it. So you never know what's gonna be popular, because all it takes is, you know, one video changing your life. Same thing with the tournament. One tournament like Lackland, you know, that 180cc changed his life. It could be the same thing with one video.
That one epic absolute run. So what do you have coming up? You have pans.
Yeah, next week gonna get the pans out of the way, and then next month Nogi Worlds, ADCC trials the next month, and then Ghee Worlds in December. So I have a good competition season planned out, and then just see how I do. I feel pretty ready.
So having something every month like that, how do you manage your weight, like to always be making weight? Because it's always weigh in before you compete, right?
hmm I just do my proper weight class, guys. So I'm not if I'm close on that scale, and I'm already a few months out, and I know in my heart I can't make that middleweight or that lightweight. It's just better to fight up. So I have a lot of friends, they're trying to cut a lot of weight, and you could probably do that when you're young, but you got to realize you're kind of capping your performance, your athletic performance. So I'd rather be able to eat and feel strong. Maybe not be the biggest person, but I want to go in feeling strong and confident and hydrated. So I just
Good for
I just
you.
go in
Good for you.
the right weight class.
Another
Or
thing
that
too is like
training
even
smart, right?
there's like research on it too, and like you see it in the UFC is these guys that cut a lot of weight year after year. It's like their body gets to the point where it's like, nah, man, not anymore.
Those old wrestlers, man, they cut too much water weight. They're just like,
Oh Jesus Christ! All wrestlers are the worst. I had like friends show up to tournaments like 10 pounds over. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like I just need a garbage bag and I'll run this off. I'm like, what are you doing to yourself, dude?
yeah, that sounds terrible.
So that fight with the scale becomes more important than the actual match on the mat.
It's the problem is when you hang out with wrestlers, it's like when the wrestlers talk to each other, they have a competition about who is more miserable at that time. It's like, oh yeah, I run 5 miles and I ate a can of tuna, nothing else, and it's like, come on, man. Especially like as one of the advice when I was teaching jiu-jitsu and like I had guys competing for the first time, especially is do not cut weight. It's like you're dealing with so many things already. It's like the first time you do a tournament, you're gonna have all these nerves, you're gonna have like all these hormones, and like your flight and fight response, you're gonna be going crazy. Last thing you need to add to all of this is you cutting weight for the first time, because especially like they don't have that experience in like wrestling in high school or do like weight class sport before. People have no idea what it feels like to like be water depleted or like fasted for who knows how many hours so you can make the weight. So it can go horribly wrong. So it's like just don't add that into the
I
question.
mean, we've all pretty much been there where just like you're like, man, I made weight, all right. I don't care about anything else now.
You're like, you're weighing in with the karate gi and the karate belt, so you can like make it.
I think it's getting better. I feel like in most sports, it's getting better.
Yeah. I mean, wrestling and like the hydration test has really changed things. I think most states have it now. I remember when I was wrestling in high school, it was like the first year New Jersey had the hydration test. I know college wrestling is almost non-existent now. Like they're not even allowed to use the word weight cutting. It's like all about weight management, and like they're not allowed to use saunas, like rubber suits, like all these crazy things they used to do back in the day are like outlawed because like kids were doing some real damage to themselves. So yeah, definitely I'm anti-weight cutting. I did the same, like my entire jiu-jitsu career. I don't think I ever like really cut weight. Never. I think my rule of thumb was like no more than 5 pounds. It's like I'm more like I'm like farther than 5 pounds away, and like I was training all the time, like eating pretty clean, so it wasn't an issue. But yeah, I remember the only one time I remember like having like a bad weight cut was I was like a purple belt, and like there was like a pro division in New Jersey, and somebody fell off, and they were like, oh, so anybody wants to jump in, like it was like under 190 pounds, and I remember like reading this right after our friend Dave and I went to get burgers. I had like a giant burger and fries. I go on the scale. I go on the scale. I'm like 198. I was like, Dave was like, all right, man, gotta get on that treadmill.
And Dave don't play, like
Dave don't play. Dave had me, drove me the next day because I was like all lightheaded.
You just now you gotta
just like
perform at peak performance there.
Yeah, then I had like I remember all that, and then I drew Rust on first round. I just went. And
Should have just enjoyed your burger.
That was awesome. I should have.
Yeah, you don't want to hear my weight cut stories. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. I mean, like this between the saunas and just experience, like, because I'm one of those people that never had to do weight cut until I was an adult in my 20s, right? And just that feeling of needing water, sitting in the sauna forever, and then just needing water, and then still having to put on a rubber suit, and then the gi on top, and trying to roll around like that, how stiff and dry you feel. Like, it's not just in the mouth, it's like your body doesn't want to move because it's so dry. And then to still have to get on the scale the next day, you don't quite make it because you're like maybe a pound over for me. So it's like people talking about cutting your hair, cut your belt, change your gi.
Cut your belt.
Yeah,
like
all
off,
these
like,
like little nickel and diming things. I'm just like, you're fighting with the scale and not your jiu-jitsu anymore. And then you go out there and you feel like crap when all these other practice sessions you felt great. It's like, why do it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely. I mean, like, that's one of the good things about Abu Dhabi is, like, you know, there's such a big gap on those weight classes. A lot of times, like, that doesn't allow you to cut weight.
No, you can't make it.
Yeah, I mean, like, sometimes I remember, like, what was it, like, when Polaris was in it, and like the one year, and he was just like huge for the weight class, and he's like, yeah, I'm cutting, like, because he had to weigh in every day. He was like cutting 10 pounds, 15 pounds every day. Like, what is happening? And then I remember, like, when he got to that match with Andre Galvao, and he couldn't heel hook him in the first 2 minutes, you could see his face like, oh no.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I don't have the cardio for this. Anything else, Hillary?
Me?
Anything for Alec?
It's fun reminiscing about all the good times and the bad times, and glad I don't do some of that crap anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, and I mean, it's been really fun watching your career and how popular your content is getting, and like people, you know, giving you some recognition. And I really enjoy you. One of the, you know, there's not a lot of guys that are still doing no gi and gi at a high level like you are. So it's really cool to see. And I mean, I met you when we met. We were both purple belts. So it's really cool to see all the cool things you've been doing, my friend. Where can people find you online?
You guys know I'm everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, Quora. Just look for me, Alec Baulding. I got my name, so I'm pretty lucky. I noticed everybody's got jiu-jitsu in their title, you know, something jiu-jitsu, but I was like, man, I just want my regular name in case I want to do something else, you know.
All right, Alec.
Man of many skills.
Man of many skills. I'm sure we'll see you when you're up in the East Coast.
Yeah, let's hit up the diner because we don't got those in Georgia.
Yeah, you need that diner experience. And then next time we're in Georgia, we'll find you. Get some lemon pepper wings.
Ooh, need my
lemon pepper wings, some barbecue. We got some stuff.
Peach cobbler.
Fried chicken.
Yes.
Cobbler, yeah.
All right, friend. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, Panda Nation. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Inverted Gear podcast. You can find us at invertedgear.com as well as your favorite podcast app. Don't forget to give us a like, and we'll see you soon.